Hello, welcome everybody. I believe we are live, just double checking. Yes, we are. Welcome everybody. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. So good to be here with you all for our holiday special and the Portal to Ascension show. It's the last show of the year and we did this series. Some of you may know that if you've been a part of it for the last few months, we've been going on for 4 or 5 months, I believe, different show every month on a different topic. And this is the second to last show. So this is like one season. We're going to be doing one more show in March, and then we're closing out the PTA show. But I just want to say welcome to everybody. Today's theme is the Christ consciousness for a really good reason, because 'tis the season of the Christ consciousness awareness. And also it's really to give reverence and to really channel the energy into sorting through the distortions of this time and this energy, right? That's become so externalized and personified into what it's really all about. So just kind of holding down the energy for the truth of the awareness of the Christ consciousness, where it really came from. So that is the theme for today. Right now we are live on Alan Steinfeld's New Realities. We are live on Portal to Ascension. So welcome everybody there and to everybody in the chat. And the way we're going to flow today, we're going to be here for around an hour and a half. We have some amazing guests, but I want to start out before we even do the breath work. I think it would be great just for us to go around and just introduce ourselves, say hi. And even though the Christ consciousness is this specific energy, I have a great feeling that all of us have a different way of really explaining what it means to us. So why don't we start with my good brother and friend, Alan Stein from New Realities, who Alan, Joan, and myself are actually here together in the same house in Mexico. So brother, you want to start off and let us know what you feel about this topic?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think it's a great time of year to do this, not so much for Christmas, but because the solstice is the time where people really go inner. And the Christ consciousness, it's not, I don't feel, a religious term. It means anointed one. Christ, the Christos, was the anointing. And the anointing is what's coming into all of our realms now. We are reaching a new level of vibration. I hope Eric talks about that. And we're moving into a collective field, which I call Christ consciousness. It's not one person becoming a Christ. It's all people attaining that level of awareness, of transcendence, of activation of their own divinity. That's the time we're in. And we're really at a crucial turning point, 2022 to 2023. We are leaving the old world. And I think really up to 2022, the end, and 2023 is the beginning. It's the beginning of the unknown. We've just been through a couple of major shifts in the last few years, and we're about to start something new. It looks like we're graduating to a new level, and Christ consciousness is the destination. I don't think we've arrived, but we're on the way. I think that's great. We're doing something about it right here on Portal to Ascension. So that's a little bit of what I have to say.
Thank you, brother.
Yes.
How about you, Joan?
So, to me, the Christ consciousness is stepping into the divinity within. It's really claiming that connection we have with Source, with our higher self, with our guides and our angels. And in fact, it's bringing in the heavenly realms. It's bringing in that touch of the divine so that we know that we're connected in all ways with our guides and our angels. It's that self that knows that all is unfolding for the highest good of all concerned. It's that self that trusts and knows that we are more than our physical body, that we are the light, that we carry this light within us, that where we go, we carry more than just our human neuroses. We carry that extra special energetics, which allows us to be more than we are and greater than we are, which allows us to look at this picture that I have behind us and know that that's where we come from. And so when we claim and carry that Christ consciousness within us, we walk on the higher realms, even though we may be walking on the road. And wherever we go, people feel it. We exude a radiance that brings hope, inspiration, and courage to humanity. It frees humanity from their lower nature, which is that heavier, dense vibration. So when we walk with that Christ consciousness, we are walking in that expanded awareness of who and where we are. And so it is, and I invoke that you can all come and join me today in this temple of holding that energy and remembering that we carry this in all ways. And that is how.
I got Christ conscious chills right now.
Right? And so it is, beloved ones. And remembering we are the beloved. We are the beloved. And we are looking at each other through the eyes of the beloved.
Thank you, Joan. Michelle, what is the Christ consciousness to you? Alan, you were gonna jump in, Alan?
I was saying that's beautiful, Joan, looking at the beloved, looking at everyone as the beloved with the eyes of the Christ, with the as the embodiment of that is what will bring peace to the world. Okay. Yes, Michelle.
I am so overjoyed to be here today and to hear how each of you are expressing this vibration. And I don't even feel like I can add to that other than I'm resonating with the vibration of love and this feeling that what we're doing by stepping into this term, Christ consciousness, is remembering and reclaiming the truth of who we are as souls and understanding that we're individuals within the whole. That feeling of each one of us being a part and a particle of that energy that we may call God, or that the universe, universal energy, and that every thought, word, feeling, and deed is a part of that. And that this is the time that all the prophecies pointed to, and we're in it now. Before we came live, everybody was kind of checking in, and we all kind of felt that there was a little bit of a crunchiness to the energy today. I was a little bit discombobulated. We were scrambling a little bit. But as soon as each one of you started talking about this concept or this feeling of Christ consciousness, like Neil said, that the goosebumps and the feeling overcame us, and I feel much more peaceful being able to drop in our hearts and to share from that place that we're all going through the same thing, and it's just coming out in different ways. But Christ consciousness is where we place our external feelings and bring them internal and find the peace within the chaos. I'm glad we have Eric Rankin starting us off too, because I think he's going to give a brilliant answer to what that is, since he's got a new novel that will be coming out soon that's all about the quantum teachings of Christ.
Well, before we go to, let's go to Doe and hear what she has to say, and then Eric could.
We're going to do a breath work after Doe, right?
Right. Okay.
Bonjour, I'm Doe Renee, and I'm just so grateful, like everyone has said, reflecting that gratitude immensely, infinitely, that we get to be here together. I mean, with the trials and tribulations of life that we've all experienced, co-created and experienced in the last few years, we've seen that, wow, it is a blessing to be alive. Life is precious. And there have been other things that have come out of that have been contrasting to that. And it's all beautiful. It's all part of it. It's all part of seeing that. So I'm just so grateful to be here as we take this solstice sacred time and healing outdated experiences of consumerism in this time and evolving that into creatorship. So I'm really grateful soon to share. Later, I have the map of consciousness, which keeps coming up to my mind from Dr. David Hawkins, that I'll share at one point during some expressive poetry. And I'm just grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Renee, thank you so much. And I think you said something like outdated paradigm to creatorship, right? Becoming the conscious creators. And, we are creators on this planet, but a lot of us have forgot. So what will happen once we become conscious creators and intentional creators? And that's really the theme of everything we do, right? And we're just choosing to use this time in order to really just focus on that specific theme. And I want to just talk about what it is to me, Christ consciousness. It's so multifaceted, but especially this time of year, there's the symbolism behind this time of year and how it connects to the Christ consciousness, the Christos, psychedelic experiences, the Klausdom, which is Santa Claus, the Klausdom and the fluid in the brain. I'm going to be doing a presentation in a few days on that, and how the Klausdom fluid is actually goes up and down this part of our brain that is actually the chimney, which is where we get Santa Claus, the Klausdom going up and down the chimney. So the layers and layers of symbolism that has to do with this time of year is so profound. And what does it connect to? It connects to an awareness of how we can achieve a more empowered state and live and walk these planets like the gods that we are, and completely in remembrance of that. So today we're choosing to have a moment where we're talking about that and giving reverence to not specific topics like ancient history today and vibrational sound this day, but just the overall energy of what we're here to do, which is awaken humanity to the truth of who we are. So to me, the Christ consciousness it's a beautiful aspect of what our planet represents and our true potential, right? And today we're going to even get into a conversation about the Sophianic energy and the Christ consciousness, the connection. I want to bring this up at least, and the feminine and the masculine coming together in unity to create true balance on this planet. So that's just a little bit of, my thoughts on the Christ consciousness.
Right.
So let's go ahead and just center ourselves.
Eric, are we going to ask?
We'll have Eric start us off, and then Eric, you can start off with what you feel it is and then go from there, right? So sure. Let's just take a few moments here, everybody, and center ourselves and just do just a few deep breaths together, just to really just bring our energy fields connected as we're connecting and creating an auric field around the planet, a grid line around the planet, and amplifying our frequency with the awareness that we're going to share today. So I invite all of you just to get comfortable wherever you are. If you're laying down, sitting down, just sit comfortably. And we're just going to take a few deep breaths together. But right now, just breathe normally. Just start to observe your breath. Just observe the breath going in your nose, out of your mouth, in your nose, out of your mouth. Feel the oxygen going in and out of your body. Something we do so unintentionally, unconsciously. Let's bring consciousness and intention to our breath. Focusing our minds, focusing our hearts on the flow of this energy, this prana in our bodies. As you're breathing, start feeling the pulsating of your heart. Tune into the blood circulating through your veins. All the mechanisms that are within our beautiful human avatar bodies that are at play all the time so that we can live on this earth. As we do this, we fine-tune our senses and we start going within, using our own bodies to connect to the greater cosmos. In a moment, we're going to do 3 deep inhales with exhales. We're going to inhale through the nose and exhale out through the heart. But right now, just keep breathing. And on the next exhale, we will begin with the first of 3 deep inhales. Exhale and inhale deep. Let it out through the heart. Inhale deeply. Let it out through the heart. One more time. Let it go. Just keep your eyes closed for a few moments as we create synergy and harmony between all those that are connected to this event now and in the future. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. right, everybody, let's begin. So thank you all so much for tuning into that field, setting the meditative energy for what we're going to experience today. And who do we have next? We have Eric Rankin. So I'm so excited for Michelle and Alan. I believe you both kind of want to do intro here. So let's bring on Eric.
Okay. Well,
There he is.
Yep. Oh, here I am. What Christ consciousness is to me has sort of morphed and evolved over my journey. I grew up in a Christian household, kind of bounced from different churches and ideologies. I went to a Seventh-day Adventist academy and elementary school. And then I kind of felt myself moving away from Jesus, Christ, consciousness, any of the terms throughout my kind of college age years. But the term Christ consciousness still was one of those things that kind of floated that could apply to people that were Christians or maybe not Christians, that it was something bigger than that. But for a long time in my life, it was a lateral, vertical, technical definition, like through Jesus as your guru, personal savior, however you wanted to define that, more boxed in by the trappings of a particular religion. And now to me, it is more lateral. It is without the guru paradigm. It is something that is available in every moment to every person. And I believe that's what Jesus was actually saying in his most significant sermons. I'm going to read a teeny bit from my book, which is not a novel, Michelle. It's not a novel. What I did was.
Did I call it a novel?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. The book is titled "As Above, So Below: The Quantum Teachings of Jesus." And what I did was I took my favorite part of the Bible, which is the Gospel of Matthew, and kind of ran it through my own sensitivities, my own research, my own feelings about who Jesus was, what his message was. And so it's kind of like a modern interpretation of the book of Matthew. There's 28 chapters. And after each one, I provided some personal reflections after each chapter. I didn't reflect on the entire chapter, just bits and pieces that I thought were some of the most important. So it's not a super long book, but it's done. It's with the final book doctor. I project it to be done in mid-January. And I'm very excited about it, actually.
What is it about Matthew that makes it more special to you than the other Gospels?
Well, Matthew kind of contains so many of the aspects. Yeah, Matthew has the birth story and the dying on the cross story. It has the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. It has some moments when Jesus kind of exposes some human frailties that don't get mentioned very often. He gets frustrated. He kind of chastises. He sounds at times, there's a good 8 references or so where one of the people that was reading this book along with me, I'm in a writer's group, and she's like, "Why'd you make Jesus sound like such a jerk?" And I'm like, that's actually the most truthful pullings from the gospel. He says to Peter, says, are you trying to be stupid right now? I mean, I'm trying to make this as easy to comprehend as I can, speaking in allegory, and finally they kind of get it. But it was just rereading. If you read the Gospel of Matthew, or really any of the Gospels, and you just listen to Jesus' words, 95% of them are calls to action that we can all reverberate with. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Just radical kindness, compassion, service. That's a message that I think anyone could hear regardless of their spirituality, their religion. Yet it feels like Christianity has also has over 2,000 years become a bit inverted, that we took and has started with Paul the Apostle. He's the first person to really write anything about Jesus. Most people think that the Gospels were hurriedly handwritten by his disciples while he was speaking. Like, hang on, Jesus, that was really deep. Let me get that down. That's not the case. After Jesus died, it was a good 50, 60 years before Paul the Apostle, a converted Jew, had a vision of Jesus, and Jesus said, "Why are you persecuting me?" And he went blind and deaf on a road to Damascus. And he took his own interpretations of what he thought Jesus was and should be to everyone, and wrote these letters out. All the letters that people are familiar with, Romans and Corinthians and Ephesians, those are towns, Ephesus and Corinth and Rome. And he is the one who kind of planted the idea of less of calls to action, as Jesus described them, and more about worshiping Jesus and falling at the feet of the Lamb and your personal Lord and Savior. And you're not going to buy your way into heaven with good deeds. Yet if you just go back and read the words that Jesus speaks in any of the Gospels, or even in the Gnostic Gospels, Thomas or Judas or Mary, you get a very Eastern sounding philosophical man sharing information that he thought anyone could step into and would vibrate with. And it's very empowering. And that's what Christ consciousness means to me, is we are all empowered in any moment to step into a higher vibration of service, love, kindness, compassion.
Oh, it's perfect you're kicking off this whole day, Eric, because that's a great introduction. And I'll just say a few words. And of course, Michelle knows you much, much better than I do. But I feel you're tapped into this sacred awareness through sound and geometry, and you understand what makes something sacred. You know, the mantras and the yantras, the visuals and the audio. And so this is what the awakening of Christ consciousness is, the sacred awareness to who we are as a human civilization. So that's a little bit from what I know of your work.
Thank you. And Alan, right back at you. I gave a little talk once and you came up and said, wow, that was a great talk. And that was like an anointing to me to have Alan Steinfeld say, wow, that was a great presentation. I carry that with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I love the mutual admiration that both of you have for each other. And I'm always really uplifted by watching how you two weave and dance and talk about these topics. When Neil told me about this particular webinar he wanted to do about Christ consciousness, I don't think Neil knew that Eric was writing this book. And I said, oh my gosh, please have Eric be a speaker, because I've been privy to this process he's been in writing this book through. And before he was even finished with the book, I was begging him to read it. Eric, when was that? It was Easter weekend, I think. I said, will you please read a chapter or something on our radio show? And we put a call out on that show to have people help do editing and plant those seeds with Eric to get this book written and done. And I really feel that what Eric is doing is empowering people who will read the book to look inside and realize that Christ consciousness is probably most likely an embodiment practice.
Absolutely.
of us all stepping into that and modeling this beautiful energy that Christ displayed, and knowing our humanness within that, being able to forgive ourselves, like with me being all discombobulated today. And that's, going through that and realizing we're having this human experience. But the way that Eric lays this out, he's read a lot of chapters. He actually gave me a sneak peek so that I could read through it. And this is exactly what I feel the world needs right now during this time. And that's why Eric has, I've been begging him to finish it and pushing really hard. A lot of us who surround Eric are feeling that way, that there's no time like right now, the present, to inspire people to step into this, this way of being. And this is what's helping to lift and raise the vibration on the planet. Eric, you actually model it, you walk it. And there are times I see you in your humanness, where
we're supposed to be.
right. Where we laugh together at having those moments where we lapse into maybe judgment or, whatever the emotion may be, and catch each other. And that's also, I think, another aspect of Christ was being able to laugh at himself and being able to be joyful and playful in that way. That's just my own sense and feeling. But it's been a joy to be on this ride with you. And I've never read your bio before, Eric, and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful that, your bio talks about how you've been studying frequency for decades. And I've been witness to that, and how you, it says right here, while researching and swimming with dolphins around the world, for your best-selling novel, The Aquarians, you were introduced to the power of vibration, especially as it pertains to revealing form in the mind of a dolphin, and that you are currently doing. I would like all of our listeners, watchers, participants today to know that you can come experience Eric's sonic geometry events at the world famous Integratron in the Mojave Desert in California. Do you have any more scheduled, Eric?
Not for this year. We just did our last one this year, 2 weeks ago, and we'll be picking dates, probably 4 to 5 dates in 2023. But yeah, you can go to integratron.com and under events and read all about what we do there. So, you've been a major speaker featured on Gaia TV and working with. I've watched you work with all these physicists, and you never felt like you were you fit in with them, but you fit in beautifully. Well, I certainly don't have the background.
you don't, but you found yourself kind of falling into that, and which I find really important during these times, because your message reaches a broader audience. Your message isn't just reaching to people who can comprehend it with their brains. Your message is connecting with people that actually are feelers and feeling with our hearts that there is this quantum universe out there, and you're opening up pathways inside each one of us just by being around you, and you sharing the frequencies and all about what's the information in sonic geometry. And I encourage all of the participants today to go look at the sonic geometry videos 1, 2, and 3. And
that's at sonicgeometry.com is the best way to find those. You can find them on YouTube, but there's so many people that have copied them and added their own and transcribed them. It might take a while to find the originals, so you can find all 3 originals at sonicgeometry.com.
That's a good point too, Eric. That I like to bring that forward, that when you started sonic geometry, that phrase was not anything that you could search on and find the word sonic geometry. And so I like to think of you as would I call you the grandfather? Woohoo! Coining the phrase, right?
I'm old enough.
Seriously. But I want to turn this over to you, Eric, because I want you to get to what's going on, what you want to read from your book. I think we're all ready and we're hungry for it right now.
Well, sure. And the way I'm going to do that, I think, because this is all new. I'm talking about is the book is already out, and I've kind of got a polished presentation, which I don't have. So what I'm going to do is read 2 paragraphs that must the elevator pitch the back of the book. I put some thought into this, and I think it conveys a lot of what I'm trying to get done with the book as concisely as possible. So it says, 2,000 years ago in Roman-occupied Israel, a Jewish man named Yeshua shared spiritual teachings unlike anything that had been heard before. In simple terms and through relatable stories, he revealed that the kingdom of heaven is not a place you go to after you die, but a state of being residing within every person in every moment. Sharing a message that transcends all religions and belief systems, he informed his followers that they were not victims of a vengeful God, but the empowered creators of their own life experience. He instructed people to take personal responsibility for their conduct, to treat others as they would want to be treated, and to recognize that their words and actions are the primary factors shaping their destiny both here on earth and in the eternal heavenly realm. In this book, I demonstrate that Jesus' teachings are not only timeless, but also supported by recent discoveries made in the realm of quantum physics. When we compare his teachings to our current understanding of the way the entire universe works, we realize that Jesus was one of the first religious teachers to merge spirituality, science, faith, and logic. With a fresh perspective, this book makes the wisdom of Jesus accessible to all spiritual seekers, Christians and non-Christians alike. That was the end of that. Did you hear it?
I love it.
Here I'm thinking mic drop and everyone's like, start over.
Oh, well, we're feeling the energy.
Oh, it was a mic drop for sure, and a mind
Yeah.
blow.
The state of like, definitely you're reflecting into like, what is the truth of what was shared, right? Because it's been so externalized, right? And it's really
Yeah.
about the number one thing that I would love to say about when, when I have conversations with Christians or people that are more fundamental with their views, is that the kingdom of heaven is within. That's to me is a literal statement, right?
Yeah.
So the three things that stood out from what you said, brother: state of being, not being victims, and being the empowered creators, right? So it's truly like retelling the story for the first time.
Okay. I mean, whenever you go to at first, I started this project many, many years ago, and it didn't have any of my reflections. It didn't have the quantum essence, the science kind of aspect to it. And a few people read it and just like, who is this for? I mean, you're just going to piss off Christians, and everyone else thinks is going to think it's too Jesus-y. It's like neither fish nor fowl. But somehow in these last 25 years or so, it feels like we're kind of moving into the space where Jesus and Christ consciousness is circling back around into a broader awareness. And I think it's time for sure. I mean, it's always been time, but a big part of it for me was detaching, and I do it in the introduction, detaching how we think the Bible came to be. It was Paul the apostle who wrote the first letters to these epistles to these people in other towns, but the Gospels themselves were written after that. So we're talking like 60, 70, 80 years after Jesus died. Think of all these oral stories being told about him and how factual or non-factual they might be. But if you drop into the essence of the message being conveyed, there's a beautiful continuity and theme throughout. And that's what I tried to stay true to.
Eric, don't you think it's about all of us tapping into that? It's not about one person, it's about now collective. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Jesus really was deflecting so often that it wasn't about one person, including him. When he was doing these miracles, he was telling his disciples and others, you can do these things. You live your life right. The Buddhists might call it the right way. And I mentioned a lot of Eastern philosophies. I reference other teachers in my reflections. I reference Joseph Campbell and Alan Watts and different people that have these philosophical takes on who Jesus was. But absolutely, Jesus would have been the first person to say, it's not me. This is for everyone to do. In fact, you'll never hear it. Most people are familiar with Jesus walking on water. He's out on a boat. His disciples are on a boat. Jesus isn't with them at the time. They're afraid. And he comes walking across the water, and he's standing there on the waves. And Peter again says, Lord, can I come and join you? And Jesus says, you absolutely can. And Jesus gets out. Peter gets out of the boat and walks on the water a bit, just like Jesus did. And this is in the Bible, in Matthew, until his fear takes over, his earthly conditioning, everything else. And Jesus says, your faith just didn't sustain you. But it's pretty wild that in the book, we think only Jesus could have walked on water. No, in Matthew, Peter walks on the water as well.
Isn't that a great example? That I just find it so practical, because how many times do we let our fear get a hold of us? And the vibration shifts when we're letting our fear get a hold of us. I catch myself in it, especially during these last few years. And it's such a practical way to look at, how we move forward with this Christ consciousness energy.
Also, Eric, you have practical tools that you worked with, discovered, formulated that gets people into those frequencies, the sonic geometries, like the sound and the geometry. Can you talk about those tools for activating Christ consciousness?
I don't in this particular book. I am, of course, a real believer in the significance of sound, and I think that was known to people in the births of all these major religions and spiritual paths, that we see how significant sound was, whether it's chimes or bells or gongs or bowls in cathedrals and these huge structures that contain the sound and reverberate it in specific ways. Chanting, I mean, didgeridoo playing, there's an obvious connection. It's so big that it seems almost like, why even mention it? But a sound is a huge part of most spiritual pursuits and religions.
Right. Okay. I thought maybe you could share some of those tools, even though you don't write about it, unless you want to just talk about the book, wherever you want to
Well,
go.
while I'm in the book, I'm going to read one of my reflections sounds like. So a lot of people are kind of familiar with the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, and the Lord's Prayer. That's all in Matthew. So I'm not going to read how I translated this particular chapter. I'm going to read 2 or 3 paragraphs of what my reflections sound like. So this one's going to address the Lord's Prayer. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Continuing on, Jesus provides the crowd with an example of how to pray. The words he speaks are now known all over the world as the Lord's Prayer, a short but powerful invocation that is first and foremost a statement of gratitude to God for this incredible experience we call life. To me, this prayer also reveals Jesus' expanded sense of perception and awareness, where words like on earth as it is in heaven, or in my translation, as above, so below, reflect a fundamental understanding of the quantum realm, where the same patterning can be observed in both the smallest and the largest organized structures in the universe. Whether it's the spiral of the tiniest snail or the spiral of an entire galaxy, there is an obvious similarity mirroring the micro and the macro in every aspect of creation. One could call this relationship the thumbprint of God, and it can be found in everything and in every life. Later, Jesus reiterates the importance of self-love and acceptance, making it clear that only to the level that you are able to cherish and honor yourself are you able to do the same for others. Some people compare this philosophy to the oxygen mask rule while flying, where in an emergency, you are first to make sure you can breathe before trying to help anyone else around you. This is an oversimplified analogy, but it does get the idea across that if you are not able to take care of yourself, which includes loving and forgiving, you won't be able to be of much use to anyone else in need of love and forgiveness. It's like this all the way through, where it's a message of personal empowerment, and almost where someone could read it as almost blasphemous, that people take my words and really what I'm really doing is saying what Jesus said. And let me see if I can just find.
Did you read Reflections on Chapter 5? Cause and Effect?
I did not. Those were reflections of Chapter 6.
Because I also like Reflections on Chapter 5 and feel appropriate right now.
Well, I could do justice. We could talk about justice and fairness. I mean, all these things are worded in a way that makes sense. What I really hope, no matter what people, their religious leanings are, their preconceived notions are, that nothing in this book, whether you're a firm Christ believer, a Christian, or anything else, you're on a spiritual path of awakening. We call our show, Michelle and I, we call our show Awakening Code Radio, because that awakening looks different, unique to each person, but there is a theme running through it that would be kindness, service, love, compassion. And the Jesus sharing is centered around all of those things. So I don't think anybody would ever, or in my mind, would have reason to be feeling conflicted about this if you just read those words. So I don't know if that's a good place to stop.
I just want to say, like, I've heard a lot, a lot of people have taken the Bible literally, right? But I would say if you really take it literally, a lot of different components, and you really read, like, for example, things the Old Testament, in the beginning was the word, kingdom of heaven was within, all these different phrases really do, when you take it literally, it really does show that it's a whole different understanding of these teachings than we've been taught for so long. And, we're going to close out in a couple of minutes, Eric, but I want to ask you this. It seems like every zodiac, every 2,000 years is a new religion on the planet. Piscean age began. We have the Piscean age, the fish, fish is a representation within Christianity. So even Christianity that has created such a disconnect from astrology, right? And a lot of individuals even think it's kind of demonic, actually is connected to the astrological world. So would you say that the teachings of Jesus, it seems like he was ahead of his time, right? A lot of it was actually taken and distorted, but maybe this teachings were actually the teachings for this age that we're coming into now, and we've had some time to percolate with it, right? And now these understandings are coming back for us to really grasp what it truly meant, right?
Absolutely. I totally believe that. I do believe he was ahead of his time. There were great spiritual teachers before him. If people don't know the timelines, Buddha and Confucius, they were 500 years before Jesus. So it seems very obvious to me that he would have at least heard a lot of those teachings and kind of reframed them in ways that people in this culture hear them. I want one short paragraph and we'll be done. I just put in another quote in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus says that how you perceive and choose to conduct your life actually shapes the physical world around you. If you are cruel to people, you are likely to encounter similarly cruel people. When you are loving and kind, you attract love and kindness from others. This is not chance. In the realm of physics, this phenomenon is known as sympathetic resonance. So yes, being ahead of your time and knowing certain things and maybe being limited by his own understanding of what we would call science and physics today, he just was so tapped in. And he's talking about the way the universe works. We call it, whether it's the law of attraction or where your energy goes, attention flows, and all these things, we create our environment. Those are concepts he seemed very comfortable with. And yet his struggle was how do you convey those where people understand them? Because these were people living in fear of an angry, jealous, kind of mythological God still, the white bearded master smoting and judging and taking sides in confrontation. And Jesus says, listen, that's not how the universe works.
People are still living there, Eric. Nothing's changed in 2,000 years for a lot of people.
Yeah, for a lot of it is true. And it's really, Michelle has, since I've known her, has said, this is the moment where we either, how do you express it, Michelle? We either evolve or...
Evolve or become extinct.
Yeah, that's our own choice. I mean, if we continue to solve our conflict with violence, if we are quick to judge, if we are not quick to forgive, if we stand in polar separation, duality is a thing in nature, but polarized separation where you claim only my side and the other person is standing there saying only my side, and the way we're going to resolve this conflict is killing each other and destroying each other's property. We won't be here long, and we shouldn't be. This is the moment when we either wake up or nature takes care of itself and onto the next species inhabiting this planet, because we have the potential. We go to church to hear these messages, but we don't think they're real world messages, but they are, and it's time to employ them. And I hope the book helps.
No more talking about it. It's time to actually be it. Is the way that
walk the talk.
Yeah. And of course forgive ourselves when we're not being it in the moment. But Chief Golden Light Eagle used to talk about instantaneous forgiveness, getting to radical, unconditional love and instantaneous forgiveness. And it's what we're being tasked and asked to do.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because I was never brought up in that with the Christ in that way in anything in my childhood. And yet I feel like a lot of what I do emulates the Christ consciousness. And so I don't even associate it with the Bible or associate him with religion or Christianity. I associate Christ consciousness with this consciousness that each and every one of you and I are really emulating to achieve. And it's a consciousness, it's not a being.
Yeah.
And so it's a heavenly consciousness that we should all aspire to, in a sense. And I did have an experience of walking on water once, and it was in a dream. And I was running away from the Romans, and I was walking on water. And I knew I was walking on water, but the moment I looked down, and it was an amazing feeling, because as long as I didn't look down and realize I was there, and then I sunk in the water. But for that moment of time, it was as if that consciousness had created this energetic form, and it was quite profound. But I think when we take it out of the person, we take it out of the Bible and out of the religion, and we go to that universal Christ consciousness.
Yes. Yeah, Jesus wasn't asking people to be Christians or really anything else. He was inviting people to connect with Source, the divine, and that meant everybody, and including everybody throughout all time, and that includes us. He didn't want to be, I don't think he wanted us to worship him. That was something that Paul took. And I do believe his message, was he a Messiah? Well, if you take his message and say, could this message save the planet? Yes. So it is a messianic message, I would say. It is a message that could save the planet. And it is a simple one, not easy to adhere to, but it's not rocket science. A child could understand it, which Jesus said, love one another, do unto others as they would do unto you, and love, forgive, be kind, be of service.
Beautiful.
Beautifully said. Thank you. This is such a great way to start this program.
That's why bringing in the light at the darkest part of the year is what brings hope, I think. The Christmas trees. I mean, even though I can't stand it anymore because it's overdone and commercialized, I think there's something, I think the evergreens that are around us, but I think also we are changing the way we look at Christ consciousness, Joan, and we're up-leveling it and realizing it's our potential. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you all for the work that you do, Joan, Neil, Michelle, Alan. I admire you in all different levels of work you do. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It is a multifaceted experience, and we're all bringing our own little gift to the big puzzle. So
exactly. Actually, before you go, Eric, do you want to share real quick, because you're going to be at a San Diego conference? Do you know what you're going to be sharing there at all?
It might be a blend. It's so funny. I'm just going to turn my camera around and show you how weird my life is, because it does incorporate geometric forms. I mean, it's all over the place, but right in the middle is Jesus, and to the left of Jesus are these jellyfish, and I'm like, how could that be incorporated into the same thing? Geometry and the jellyfish and Jesus. And when I read in Thomas, Jesus said, I am motion and rest. When you think of the way a jellyfish swims, that is the most beautiful expression of motion and rest, and pulse equals frequency, and frequency equals sound, and sound can do things to us. So I'm hoping that maybe I can converge everything into a coherent talk, but I guess we'll have to see.
Well, I'm sure it will be coherent, so it's okay.
Thanks, Alan.
You always rise to the occasion, Eric, and you're so guided and authentic, and every single time you present, I always witness everybody in the audience being uplifted and inspired and walking away feeling awestruck and more empowered.
Well, it's what we're all here to do. It's the same mission for all of us, and everybody. I think Jesus actually said in certain ways, we're all ministers. We're all, and what does that mean? It's like, well, how am I a minister? By your thoughts, words, and conduct, you are being a minister. It might be of everything that a person would not want to emulate, but you are still giving people something to think about. And either they'll want to be, they feel intrigued by what you do, what you say, how you live, and maybe want to be like that vibrationally, or they might just go, if anything I've learned from this person, it's everything I don't want to be. So I invite everyone to take that commission very seriously, that we're all ministers.
Hey, Eric, stick around for the last part of the show where we're going to have a panel discussion with JJ and Desiree Hurtak, who you know, who go deep into this topic and bringing it out to the planet.
I would absolutely love to do that, but unfortunately, my mom was readmitted to the hospital today, and I've got to leave now to go up there. She just got out 3 days ago, and she's back. So I feel really blessed and lucky that the timing worked, that I could do this and be here with you now. I won't be able to stick around as much as I'd like to.
We will surround her with love
Thank you.
and with our prayers.
Join us
brother.
for some
Thank
reason
you.
at that at some point.
Blessings, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Eric.
Happy
Thanks so
solstice.
much.
Blessings.
Happy solstice.
All righty. Bye,
Happy
everyone.
Love Day. So I think we're about to introduce one of my new favorite people, Doe Renee. And I will say this is a powerful being, a powerful example of blending together male and female energies as a truth seeker and a visionary leader. She for peace on earth. And she stands by this truth. We must completely shift the paradigm of humanity such that a peaceful and regenerative society can emerge. She's a mother, teacher, mechanical engineer, which I think is crazy. Like, to have both is so amazing. A community organizer, artist, and Reiki healer practitioner. She believes we are in the midst of a consciousness revolution. Doe is an outspoken advocate for overcoming the oppressive systemic complexes of the world through creating sacred economies in our local sustainable communities. So I'm really happy to welcome you on the show. And I wonder if you could tell us how you got your name.
Absolutely.
what you're
Yes.
talking
Thank you
about.
so much, Joan. And I feel so seen. And I'm grateful to see you all here, fellow panelists, as well as all the people listening now and in the future. So Doe, my name is based off of my Turkish birth name, Meral, and that means female deer. And I know it's in Iranian as well, and other languages, and different spelling, similar name of that female deer. So Doe has always been a nickname for me. And Renee resonates with, I love the French language. It's one that I'm working to become fluent in, and it means rebirth and renaissance. And that's exactly where we're at right now for humanity. So thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I received that. Thank you in the spirit of radical quantum self-love, radical self-expression, and I think was said earlier, radical unconditional love, radical forgiveness, and being able to just restart in this humanity game play that we're here. And like someone said, laughing, bringing the Christ Sophia energy of to that point of awareness that we can just laugh with no reason at all necessarily. Unconditional joy, unconditional laughter, and courage. So actually I'm called totally improvisationally for just 10 seconds to actually invoke laughter yoga for a moment. If you're called or just listening, and it's simply like this. Other panelists can come off mute for 10 seconds if you'd like to laugh and feel the shift. My daughter does this. She's 1 year old. She goes, ha, 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 ha. So, feeling that energy, even just in 10 seconds of being silly, that Christ, that other energies of similar leadership brought. And I just am so grateful for Michelle, Alan, and Eric. Blessings to his family and everything he shared, and to Joan and Neil. And so I love what someone said about walking the talk. And I add to walking the talk, crying the tears, speaking the words, being the love, feeling the grief, walking the talk, and all of that. So walking the talk in a loving sense, where we're not feeling like we have to perform and earn this money and this quagmire, as I felt come through this rising of this collective quagmire that we're in. It's like a bad relationship, and you know it's supposed to end, and you're like, I don't know, how do I end this relationship? It's that relationship with our self, maybe a shadow self is one way to think of it, or a toxic self, whatever, and actually loving that self just like Christ would in that radical quantum self-love, seeing that the external things going on in the news and everything, ooh, it's pretty hard to own the fact that that's all a reflection of what's going on within me. So as I've been bringing that hardcore with art and music and authorship and creating an authorship revolution and leading young leaders, it's beautiful to see that, you know, we can see ourselves as big, and we don't have to worry about seeming too big. That's what I love teaching my teacher learners or students is, don't worry about being too big or too much. You are you. And like Joan said before we went on, or right when we went on, about going to a store and being in the energy of joy just because, like Christ, the being and the energy invokes. And people are like, and it sometimes makes you want to go small, like, oh my, am I being too nice right now? Am I smiling too much right now? And just bringing that unconditional joy. So today I wanted to share, as we shift gears and continue to co-create this amazing conscious conversation, which just in itself, I think we have to acknowledge ourselves that just taking time to do this, even if we took no actions after this, just the beingness of being here together in this virtual space, which I have a newfound gratitude for, actually, despite I had much resistance to it initially. I just wanted to share some poetry, some words and song to have us connect to that, that energy that we're all here about, solstice energy, Christ consciousness energy of just being. That's been a phrase for me lately, is just being. And before I do that, I'll just share that I'm an authorship coach out to co-create an authorship revolution. The co-creator of 0 Point Leadership Academy. I love Joan's introduction. I have a manual of free energy systems on my desk underneath the pyramid. And then I have on the other side, balanced, the sacred feminine, which is hard to see. There we go. The sacred feminine co-authorship I was a part of, which is the feminine energy and like the masculine energy, the engineering and the science side. And my mom is actually tuning in. I know she is. She's actually watching my daughter as I'm doing this. And she and my father are a huge part of that. So just calling in gratitude to so many people, including my family, who helped me create that balance that I'm still seeking, like we all are. So the first one I want to start off with is one that does invoke some of the anger that I think we need to acknowledge may be there for how things have been or still are in terms of how our brothers and sisters are interacting on this planet at times. Just like being at a family dinner and Thanksgiving, and the two uncles are still fighting. They're always fighting over there in the corner. Why can't they get along? We're just playing Monopoly over here. They thought Monopoly was a game to hurt each other over, but it's just a game. So this is called Untold History, and I do sing and also speak words through it, a cappella. Untold history, it will never rob us of our vitality. Untold history, in spite of the hate, who can we choose to be? They say history was written by those in power, just one way of remembering those fateful hours. Like the Twin Towers, nature's hurricane showers, still we cower from the truth that's so plain to see, and yet we flee. Maybe because it's so easy. But I'd assert it's ridiculous, ludicrous, preposterous, suspicious. Media's owned by a handful of people treating us like sheeples while they preach lies from their steeple. No, I say no. What about the history untold? So get ready to unfold that gray matter in your brain while our paradigms we untrain. Untold history. It will never rob us of our vitality. Untold history. In spite of the hate, who can we choose to be? Yo, I won't be pissed at my oppressor. I'm like a lion in a cage, but I won't be the aggressor. So I won't waste my time being pissed at my oppressor. I'm like a lion in a cage, but I won't be the aggressor. I'll bring people together, not just rant about corruption. Of love and peace, I will be a function. Of love and peace, I will be a function. Of love and peace, I will be a function. Feel free to join me. Of love and peace, I will be a function. Of love and peace, I will be a function. The issues are complex, so complex, yet the solutions so simple. 1, treat Mother Earth like she is a holy temple. 2, do unto others as you do unto you. And the third one is the hardest. To thyself, always be true. Humanity and cosmic family must come together and unite. We can look back at history and choose to make it right. Replace a disastrous timeline with a future that is divine. One where all people and beings of the universes live together as one. This is the history I will tell my children. We chose to set down our weapons, our judgments, our news feeds, our opinions, our likes, and plant seeds of peace. And together we will sing. History untold. Join me, remove all your blindfolds. Remove all your blindfolds. Remove all your blindfolds, please. Untold history. We are the creators of our reality. Untold history. In the presence of real love. In the presence of real love. What could humanity be with our cosmic family? Thank you.
Amazing.
Oh my God.
Amazing. I had full body chills at least 12 times, and I don't think I've ever had 12 times in one song before.
Source ripples. I call those source ripples now. Thank you.
Wow.
So
Really
beautiful.
powerful.
Your voice is so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everything that you were speaking of is just such, we're all taking it in, and it just feels so yummy right now. Look at how inspired everyone is.
I felt a deep sorrow as you were ending, like the struggles of humanity that came through in your song, and yet the hope and the unification and the strength we have. But I really do feel you speak for the heart of many. So just love you, Doe Renee.
And Doe, before you start your next song, what you started with in the beginning, saying that like our brothers and sisters, that something around the lines of like, you know, the forgetfulness that we were experiencing, but just calling them our brothers and sisters, and just realizing that we're all connected, we're all one, and they are a family, you know, and just bringing it back. So that was really the energy of what you're sharing. It's like the sorrow for wanting our family to come back and awaken up so we can move together as one. That's like kind of what I felt from your expressions.
You know what else I thought was amazing? Was like you showed us books from two sides of your brain, basically. Okay. And that is also that unification.
And allowing us to feel our grief.
Yeah, that
You know,
hurt.
it felt like giving us permission to address it and embrace it and move through it.
Thank you so much. And I'm just taking a moment to just feel that, because just as you were sharing and I was receiving your gratitude, my body kind of started shaking, because whenever I share and be in these spaces, especially of poetry, sometimes lots of energy coming through. So just going to take a moment and actually just invite us all to just 3 breaths, also for my sake, together, unifying and divinifying. So I just wanted to, because I did take notes, because I'm a nerd. I actually love I love learning. And so I did want to say and reflect. I learned so much already today. And I think, as someone said earlier, Michelle, about love, witnessing the gratitude between other people, speaking earlier, Alan and Eric. I just learned so much. And when Eric said something among many things about Ephesus and the Ephesians, I had no idea those 2 things were connected. And when he said, those are all locations, and just casually was like, just mind blew me. And then Neil said something earlier about the colostrum and neuroscience relating to Santa Claus. I'm just so grateful for how much I've learned. It's been multiple mind-blowing moments and heart-mind expanding moments. And so I did want to actually share my screen, and it looks like Neil has that open for me. Being able to just read, I believe it is sharing now, yeah. Just reading a bit as well, because it really resonates with building right on top of what others have spoken. So this is actually from the preface of Cosmic, a story of 7 women who unveil an ultimate truth for humanity, that you can find on my website. And I declare, we are waking up. We are integrating all parts of us, integrating all parts of me into wholeness for all of eternity, into this never-ending story and journey. We are in the first few cosmic minutes of the celestial alarm clock blaring, becoming hard to ignore. We can no longer hit the snooze button. I already hit it like 4 times. We're getting up out of bed and into action, healing ourselves in the process and pounding down the doors with love who are still snoozing. We are reaching tipping point after tipping point. We have already powered through many key choice points and timeline shifts already. Despite the feeling of impossibility at times, we must remember we have never been more equipped to create peace, humanity. We have heart-guided intuition, energy work modalities, technology, the internet, and all tools of spirit and science to heal the earth. Earth, spelled EARTH. Just rearrange that, put the H at the start, and it spells heart, because we're going back to the start. To some, I'm a naive optimist, but I consider myself a heart-centered realist. The possibilities I'm calling into being are not far-fetched. And we can co-create and harmonize ancient wisdom and the power of community with modern tools of technology and internet unity. Now leading up to 2027, the world is going to rapidly shift. I've had many premonitions that correlate with other thought leaders' visions, and we can use technology mindfully, teaching AI love, and so it only enhances our abilities rather than create more addiction, more control, or become a crutch. We can, and we will, create a world of greater peace and resonance. We are invoking one of the infinite timelines where we choose peace on earth. We are invoking one of the infinite timelines where we choose peace on earth. The power of media is immense. The power of internet is immense. We must use it wisely. The power of love is the greatest. We must employ it abundantly. We magnetize possible realities into existence through loving, heart-centered intention. While it is possible to warp reality through technology and control, in the end, love always wins. I poetically declare the world we live in this right now moment December 14th, 2022. In this right now moment, is ready to let go of hate and fear, excessive fear, honoring the fear that might still be there and the grief that still might be there, and knowing to let go of what does not serve us. We are so ready. We are so internally ready. Many of us know it consciously, and many, perhaps you too, even if you don't know it. It is an energetic time for light to balance in harmony with dark. We have been working at it for millennia, and now our position in the galaxy is prime for it too. And this time right now, this time of year, solstice, why it's so sacred, is prime for us to stand in our power, knowing that peace is no place to get to. It is a place to be from. And peace is right now. Violence may need to bubble up and corrupt systems may need to fall down in a messy fashion. These systems are poorly engineered house of cards stuck together by superglue, and that superglue is becoming brittle. And the more we love, and the more we don't buy into the perceptions that are fed to us not from love, and the more we revel in the beauty and the awe of other humans, the more we revel in the beauty and the awe of other humans and young leaders, the house will fall on compost, and we will see there is so much more to life. We had just been distracted from the real beauty, like staring at a tall tower for thousands of years along with the masses and watching it fall, then witnessing the clear, beautiful open fields of infinity that were there all along. They've been all around us, but we've been so caught up in the drama of making each other wrong. That one day is now. It just doesn't seem like it yet all the time, but there's moments, and we're building up to that next bigger shift, making those pockets of peace on earth, entire enveloping love of peace on earth. And earth will be and is completely new if we say so with the magic of our words. And we can and we will heal our planet, our home, our heart, our earth. We'll utilize tools like permaculture, hemp, soil regeneration, and countless other natural solutions. And they will emerge out of our inherent love for each other. Groundbreaking technologies like zero-point energy will be brought to light as we find and also be open to other technologies, maybe like fusion, as we use the zero-point field within our own hearts. Technology that accesses the vast and abundant field of energy that is present and accessible in your heart right now and in every square inch of space-time, known quietly among secret government projects as zero-point over unity energy. And we will begin to emerge. As we do so, we'll find the zero-point field within our own hearts. Pure love, present and accessible in every moment when we choose to access such energy. The unveiling of corruption, yes, of course, but an even greater unveiling is taking place. The unveiling of our own inner greatness. People and all those who see themselves at that same level of achieving energy of Christ consciousness in a way that is honoring our humanness. We are waking up to our own greatness and loving our weakness, as well as our love for humanity and cosmic family, knowing that peace is a solution we've been fighting for. So why not forgo the fighting and just allow peace, right? To the 20 and 30 somethings, teens, tweens, and children. We are the leaders. I believe it in my electromagnetic heart. The moment you do too, the moment you start visualizing in your mind the future you want for your life, for life itself, for all of Earth and humanity, you just created it in a possible realm of infinity. The goal being to draw that future into this current realm. And knowing we are the light, singing the words, I am the light. The light is within me. The light flows throughout me. Not worrying if you're off key, just being in that joy and peace. Thank you. I think I'm at the end of my time. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was so absolutely riveting, incredible. It brought tears to my eyes, and I I hope you will let me use that for our Awakening Code radio program to pulse out that message to our listeners before the end of the year, so that they too can feel and experience what I just did and what all of us here just did. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
The future we want for our lives. This is such hope and prayer for humanity. This is beautiful. Show us what you're doing.
Yeah, and I know I acknowledge for timeline, I'll begin to wrap up, and I just thank you so much. And just bringing to mind this bridge of courage that we're all traversing with love, like a voyage right now together. I call it the bridge of courage as we move from survival paradigm into reason, integrity, into spiritual paradigm, as you see on this diagram, inspired by Dr. David Hawkins' research of the map of consciousness. And knowing that I might have a moment where I fall into that grief. And I openly share that, you know, there's been several suicides in my family and friends in the last few years. And I'm a bold advocate for being able to connect with those people, honor their path spiritually, because we can keep communicating with them even after that point, honoring their choice in that after, and if as much as possible, especially for our young leaders, standing for choosing their purpose, choosing their life, and knowing we might dip down into feeling grief, apathy, guilt, shame, even in a day, and then the next moment through whatever practices and tools we can give ourselves, like self-love, radical self-love, self-love hugs, breath work, be able to breathe myself on the way up. Okay, I'm feeling I'm feeling a little bit of anger now. Okay, that's not bad. Anger is not bad. And like Eric said, Christ was not perfect all the time. He would get angry. He threw the tables up, like my mom reminded me when he saw something he felt unethical going on. And so, like someone said, just honoring our humanness and evolving from this time that has been mislabeled as consumerism of the holidays into sacred daily ritual, even just meditation a day or some sacred ritual that we give to ourselves and to the earth, evolving into creatorship, beyond, you know, victim mentality, and also honoring when others are in that space. That's the hard part at times, is to, you know, want someone to, you know, just be on board for unconditional forgiveness of everyone. Like, we just forgive them. And hearing when people are saying, well, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. I have this anger. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that anger and let's move along together in this chart and honor it all. So I'm grateful as a part of 0 Point Leadership Academy to be co-catalyzing with teacher learners who are together with me in a circular model of leadership and learning, evolving beyond education into learning, as well as co-creating an authorship revolution. Just recently declared that one. It feels amazing as an author myself of several books. Now am co-creating what we're calling the author revolution, author catalyst movement of radical quantum self-expression as access to liberate ourselves to these loving energies and consciousness, and just seeing the solutions emerge before us that were always there. Thank you so much for having me.
Hawkins map you're showing us there. What are we looking at?
Yeah, this is from Dr. David. I had that part not on there. The title from Dr. David Hawkins, and this is a different labeling of it. I've seen many labelings of it, and I love this. And sometimes this upper chart here, the light violet enlightenment, is labeled as Christ consciousness, just not on this chart. It just depends on the chart you're looking at. So I really love this to communicate with young leaders and teacher learners, so they can just go right out the gate and they don't have to, like me when I was like 25, go through a lot of unlearning and unprogramming, and they'll be able to just know themselves as true creator.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Doe. We put all your links in the chat. We are just so honored you chose to bless us with your amazing consciousness. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I second that so much, Doe Renee. I'm so glad we're connected. I'm so excited to collaborate with you in the future. And amazing. You really like just the what you read from those 9 out of 153 pages I saw was just so fully encompassing, and it really did also mirror your awareness of the linear side and the creative side and put them all together. So I just appreciate your heart and just the way you convey it and shared it with us all. So excited to do a lot more with you.
Yeah. Well,
So it is.
we are being joined by all of our good friends and colleagues, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak. Thank you, Doe, for your presentation. And Neil, where are we at? Do you want to do a discussion? Where are you up in the schedule?
Yeah, well, we're going to close out with the Hurtak, so we can just kind of flow with whatever we want now.
Well, I'll just I could do an introduction. Everyone knows them, and I'm sure everyone watching knows them, but they are the perfect people to close out this discussion on Christ consciousness, because that is their work, bringing in the Christos into the population to awaken people spiritually. But we also do a lot of work with UFOs, ETs, or chapter in making contact is very important. So they have the whole cosmology on many, many levels. And I think it's grounded in the understanding, though, of Christ consciousness. Would you agree with that, JJ and Desiree?
Definitely, Alan. We're just honored to be here with such wonderful presenters. The wonderful poetry we just heard, and all of the earlier discussion from Eric, and all who are joining us today. We feel joyous that there's a higher meaning of Christ, not just Christ, but the cosmic Christ. And this has been the dilemma for scholars and theologians and anthropologists down through the centuries. Are we looking at one event of history, or are we looking at the whole process of the divine realm manifesting itself through the human form? That we are, in essence, divine individuals finding the Christ spark of life that speaks, that has great compassion and humility, but also has a deeper understanding of the divine science of creation, from the 0 point to the cosmic synthesis.
Right. And even if we do go back to the time of Christ, you realize Christ said, I'm going to leave the Holy Spirit. So it's not going to be just the individual anymore. It's really in everyone. And we can all share in that spirit of energy. And I think that that's what we really need and want to do at this holiday time, because the idea is that we all have the ability to even move mountains if we start looking in those directions and realize we can align with the higher forces of light.
So a little bit of our background. I started out working as a research scientist with ancient documents from Egypt to Israel, from Turkey and other countries of the Middle East. All of them speak of the divine family and the personality or person known as the Christus, the Christ. And years ago, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Don Lin at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Los Angeles. And here we show the first of several photos of the image of the Christ on the Shroud of Turin that shows the three-dimensional aspect. So Desiree, my wife, and I have looked at this seriously as an example of something that scholars and scientists have overlooked.
Right. So we actually had the opportunity twice in our lives to go to Turin when the shroud was unveiled for people, because they keep it usually in the back room. And we were able to be there actually to see it. But these people at Jet Propulsion Lab, and as Doe had mentioned that, she's into science. Well, the scientists were also interested in these artifacts. And at first it didn't look good because the data they were getting was a cotton, and that was wrong. That was the repair from the outside of the garment.
During the Middle Ages, a fire took place in France and the outer garment was damaged, but the essence was the inner aspect of the linen. Which
was really ultimately to be dated at a better time. But let me just say, what's the importance of the shroud? And let's see, we have a picture of that as well, that tells us the fact that every cell of the body can change into light. And I think that that's exactly what we're looking at today. How do we go back into the power of the light body?
Right. And so we conducted several experiments using certain musical cues, what we would call them sacred expressions from the ancient Egyptian, the ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic. And what we found is that there are certain sound quavers and semi-quavers that can be produced in sacred areas that open the mind to experience streams of light or manifestations of light. As we see here historically in the shroud that Desiree is holding before you, there's more to the story, which suggests that we are in essence human, but also transhuman at the same time, having this body of light.
Right. So how could you get this image on a cloth? That's the real question. And the answer is you could only get that if the body itself went into light, like an X-ray machine. And therefore, in detail, you would have that form because, well, there's the back side of the cloth and the front side of the cloth. And actually, it was never painted on. That was clear. And also the image of the back and the front are the same emanations, the same, we'll say, resolution, so to speak, of light. So it's kind of an amazing scenario.
So let me just also add that as a scientist, I had a mystical experience. I've seen the Christ in 1973, and I wrote and illustrated this in my book, The Keys of Enoch, that there was geometry in the face of the shroud that was not being shown to scientists. Lo and behold, just a few years ago, scientists in Italy and Greece and Germany found what we have in the Keys of Enoch, the actual sign of the Aramaic Aleph on the area just below the mouth, hidden in the beard, illustrating that the Christ figure was teaching the alphabet of creation, teaching the language of light, to which we all can mobilize ourselves from the physical to the transphysical, from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. And for us, this is the reality we're moving into with the cosmic Christ. It's not simply Jesus or Christ, but it is the combination of the two in our life that allow us to prepare to accelerate the energies of consciousness and ultimately to contact cosmic intelligence already in the fifth dimension. This is what is being shown as scientifically, strategically, linguistically, musically, and all of you who participated with Neil and Alan this afternoon have put this, shall we say, into a wonderful poetic metaphor that we are a Christed being awakening to the challenge of life.
I was going to say that's what's so important about both of your work, because you are bringing in this wave of ascension. We can call it Christ consciousness, or we can call a wave of ascension or transformation of the vibratory field, which is what David Hawkins was all about. So this looking at the outpouring of what happens when you become this Christos, you illuminate the body. And this is the frequency that the earth is evolving into in these next couple of years. So that's why the work of the Keys of Enoch, the Hurtaks, and their Oversoul is so important. Yes, Desiree.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. But in actuality, of course, all of us can feel that energy. And I think that's so important because there's such a downward spiral going on with a lot of the dialogue happening around the world. But we don't feel that way. And I know, Alan, you join us as well, because literally we are not alone. And that's the important thing to know, whether you look just to the Christ or you look to any of the Buddhist or any other philosophy, or even look to extraterrestrials. We have been nourished on this planet for thousands of years. And you were with us in 2012 when people were expecting the end of the world. And I said, and we both said, no way, because it's a whole program. It's a program of soul evolution. And as we continue with that, we realize we are doing the gain function, so to speak, of the light. We're starting to bring in the light energy. We're getting that overview effect, which astronaut Mitchell talked about, that you can only really know what's going on this planet by having your higher self, your higher connection, really helping to tell you what's taking place. So you can even know the future through precognition.
So we were told by the prophets that a time will come where things will speed up. Daniel, the prophet, tells us that knowledge will become abundant. There will be a quickening, a process where people will suddenly realize we're part of a divine family. And we have illustrated this in our new book entitled Salvator Mundi, which means in the Latin, the savior figure of the Christ, in 76 different ways with beautiful illustrations from artists from all over the world. We illustrate the sacredness of using language and self-realization with sacred geometry, how we find the sparks of the divine, not only of the Christ, but of the family of Christ, what the ancient Greeks called the Christophoroi, the Christ bearers, those who go out of their way to show greater compassion and mercy for humanity, those who leave the ego behind and find the we, the totality of life within themselves, and those who seek as we for spiritual unity, from east to west, to north to south, to hear the cry of the indigenous woman, but also to cry and to hear the sacredness of the ancient psalms and the ancient hymns from Egypt and the Holy Land that tell us that ultimately we will all reach that precipice of a great leap of faith, recognizing that there's more to life than simply the evolutionary process.
Although I would say even it goes beyond faith into a direct experience. And I'm sure many of the listeners have had some connection with some levels of intelligence. And we feel what's taking place is a portal to ascension, of course, as Neil has directed.
The illustration behind us, the portal opens and the names of Metatron, one of the great archangels of wisdom's names unfold, along with the names of the Christ traditions of the Gospels, which means both the spiritual, that is the feminine, and the spiritual, that is the masculine, meet in marriage.
And I say that's why 8 billion people have now come to this planet, because they know this ascension process is going to be taking place. And so it's really up to all of us to align ourselves, be in the right place at the right time, have the right thought forms, understand what's taking place around the world and in the heavens, because it's not just limited to this planet as far as we're concerned. The portal to ascension is literally many levels of cosmology in the heavenly realms as well.
The bottom line is we are
Slaves
to no one but servants of all. We are part of the collective liberation now taking place.
I was just going to say, JJ, that's why your work is so important now. You're coming into your Jubilee year, the 50th anniversary of when JJ was taken up to those other worlds and seeing the big multidimensional view. And this is 50 years of ministry, of teachings, of spiritual awakening that is now, I feel the planet is ready for the true teaching. So JJ, no holding back. Let us have it. And we're ready.
We're going to show you a picture of what we did in Egypt a few years ago. Desiree's holding the picture, which shows brilliant lights manifesting in the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, where we were able to sing the names of the Divine Father and the names of the Divine Christ. And our vocal levels reached such intensity that a columnar wavelength of light manifested. Paraphysically, it was captured on film, as you see here. But this illustrates how sacred places were used in the ancient Near East and throughout the world to gather the energy sparks through the voice, through the prayer, through the celebration of life, so that we can momentarily step into the higher dimensions. And this is our work with Neil next year, going to Egypt. We were able to find the tomb of Osiris, the Lord who brought music to the planet by using sacred mantras repeatedly until we built the right energy synthesis or orchestration. A title of our book is before us right now, Giza's Industrial Complex.
Well, we want to duplicate that column of light when we go into the Great Pyramid, me and Neil and the Hurtaks and a bunch of other people, and then you can sign up for that trip at Portal to Ascension, or we'll show the link there, Neil. But the column of light is evidence of the Christos manifest, especially in the Grand Gallery, which then leads into what maybe some people call the Holy of Holies, the King's Chamber. And in there is the activation of the Christos body, of the Christ body. And that's what we'll be journeying with the Hurtaks into those chambers. It's very exciting. I'm really happy we're all going together, because when we chant in the Grand Gallery, we will activate a sacred vibration. I know that. So,
and as Eric said so beautifully earlier, we all become ministers, or all of us become, shall we say, part of a higher priesthood of light, overcoming the chasms and separations of the various cultures by being, as it were, the tribe of peace that brings together the understanding of what the Christ is all about. It's the word for Christos, for the anointed power of the divine human partnership. And when we truly practice this and use this collectively, then the world ultimately goes through this consciousness shift, which we feel is going to take us beyond the, shall we say, the negative preoccupation of what we call the media story of the holiday.
And just to also say, we were just in Egypt with some friends. And what we have to remember, we're in our trip with you guys, with Neil and Alan and other friends, are going to be doing both, also in addition to Giza, Luxor and Thebes, and some other temples around there, as well as a journey along the Nile. But it's interesting because we also spent some time this last time at some of the monasteries, because Jesus actually went, when he was born, as everyone remembers, they went to Egypt. And so there's this whole pilgrimage area in Egypt that is very, very powerful. And even one time the Divine Virgin appeared there when there was a tension between some of the Christians and the other religions that were there, that the Divine Mother appeared and neutralized that tension.
Even President Nasser, who was Islamic, on national television radio, said the Virgin manifested over the church of Saiton, which was a Coptic church, illustrating his deep devotion to the Virgin symbol that all three Abrahamic religions understand as part of the mystical journey. So we're at a very exciting time in history of overcoming conflict and separation by being, as it were, ministers, by being vessels of light, by being trumpets of sound and sacred vibration, opening up, as it were, the teaching within the teaching. The human heart becomes the tabernacle of the divine spirit, bringing all tribes of humanity, seeking the light into unity.
Ellen, can we do a little meditation towards the end?
I just want to ask one question. What can we do to bring that light, that activation, that Christos into our bodies, our conscious and soul, spirit elements?
Well, I always start with knowing it can happen, because if you negate it, if you say it's not, that's impossible, or maybe it happens to someone else, not going to happen to me, it's not going to happen to you. So that's the first thing, knowing you are divine, you come from a light source. And we're talking, when we talk about portal to ascension or the transformation we're all going through, which is really working on higher levels, we will be able to, in consciousness first, but even in body second, go into that light essence. So, and the other way to do it, as I think also Doe had mentioned, is really prayer meditation. We do that all the time. We do it with you very often, Alan. And you start bringing in the field.
This is called symphonic synergy. To go not only beyond the 0 point, but to realize the higher sacred geometry that brings the different dimensions closer together, as we see here in this picture of the wings of spirit. In other words, you cannot think of the Christ figure without seeing the spiritual spectrum that is changed by the authentic Christ.
And I want to add that it's not just one being. It's not just Christ. Christ is working as a family. That's why he had the experience with Moses and Elijah, but also the angelic forces. You go to some of the ancient Egyptian Coptic texts and they talk about Melchizedek. They talk about
these
Michael.
Names are very important. As you know, when I used them in Mexico by the pyramids many years ago, light appeared around my body momentarily, as seen in this picture. In other words, we all have a potential light body that can be activated. And so happened, the man was taking a picture of his wife and captured this on film for a few seconds. The intensity of the light that I'm pointing to illustrates the authentic light body that we're being prepared to go into in the fifth dimension. This is not a joke. And the governments of the world have been reluctant to tell people the full truth, that we are being surrounded by cosmic intelligence. They want us to go beyond the war games. They want us to go beyond the economic impoverishment to games. They want us to find the divine spark within us that can bring us together. And so this is really the great assignment all of us have. And this is why this conversation this afternoon with you and Neil and the others has been so important. We see the different levels of ascension at work.
And we do want to just mention again our latest book, which is called Salvator Mundi, 76 Sacred Names of the Christ, which is available through our website, keysofenoch.org.
Latest book. It's the latest book, and it's a beautiful illustration copy. And Desiree and JJ put a lot of work into that. So why don't you lead us into a meditation, and then we'll go into the next phase of this roundtable discussion. I also want to say Joan of Angels is also joining us in Egypt. So we're all very excited by that. Maybe Michelle will join us, or Doe, or everyone watching. So, okay, go ahead, JJ and Desiree.
Well, taking a few minutes just to visualize this picture I have of what is called the Jesus of Nazareth. and all of the different dimensions of teaching that connect his story with our story of transcending limitation. We hear these words and we visualize the cosmogram or picture that goes with the words of the Christ name. We visualize ourselves in the context of a new life, seeing that the shroud of Christ Jesus reveals to us the illusion of death and separation. In the face of Jesus from Nazareth, we see a new creation, that which takes us beyond the old and the limitation.
And so let us go deeper and deeper into our heart chakra, the place where we are touched by the Spirit of Christ, the greater love that permeates the entire universe.
We see the geometries and the triangles of energy, higher love and higher wisdom bringing us together. And we realize that we are working with a new alphabet of creation in the story of the risen Christ.
And we're going to sing the vibration of Emmanuel, which is God is with us.
We are all part of the divine name of Jesus, manifested as the cosmic Christ. And so if you can permit me just for a few seconds to intone this as a cantor, we feel the vibration of the cosmic Christ's face in the heavens, bringing together planetary civilizations, galaxies and super galaxies of life. And suddenly the human race is lifted up into a new realization of going from humankind to space kind. Emmanuel, 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 Emmanuel. Let the vibration of the name Emmanuel, God with us, allow us to feel the sensation of the divine spark in every part of our body. From the base of our spine to the top of our head, we see the glowing face of the Christ nature that we have come to put on. And may we enjoy the great opportunity now to reach out more dynamically across all cultures, all divisions of faith and science, to see the coming together of the Alpha and Omega, these two letters of which were recently found on the side of the sarcophagus in the king's chamber, written by ancient Greek mystics. It symbolizes that we are finding the path of vibration, the path of synergy, the path of divine science, and the path of maturity, that we are part of the work of the Good Shepherd in bringing together all humanity in the gathering of the tribes as the tribe of peace that brings unity.
And so let us visualize the heavens opening and the cosmic brothers and sisters coming forth to greet us. And we are also raising our consciousness to meet with them. It's a power of co-participation in sharing with our brothers and sisters of the heavenly realms. And by purifying our thoughts and knowing we are part of that divine cosmos that has been created and that we share, we know that there is no limitations, even in quantum physics, for our consciousness to soar, not only in this reality, but into all the divine realities, the myriads of dimensions, the myriads of higher realities.
As the door to the future opens, as the portal of ascension begins to surround us, we realize we are all Christophoroi, divine sparks in human form, yearning to understand a higher plan of unity and reaching out in all directions to be the name of Pax and Concordia, peace and harmony that brings together all creation into the oneness with the divine spirit. And so we are blessed, and so we rejoice, because ascension is before us, and the fifth dimension is here. Let us enjoy and celebrate the eternal life in human form.
And we like to close with 4 amens for the 4 directions of the planet.
Amen, 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 and amen.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Amen.
If you come to Egypt with us, we're going to do that every day and every night in the temples and after dinner. And it's really going to be a sacred journey. And thank you for that input, because this is really the time your teachings come online in a big way, because you've been planning. The world has been waiting for this time, and you've been there waiting for us to catch up. So where do you think your teachings are going now that the idea of this collective awakening is happening, JJ?
Well, let me start there, because, with the Great Pyramid, Dr. Hurtak was one of the first in the Keys of Enoch, that's 50 years ago, Alan, as you said, to mention that one of the star shafts points to Orion, that Orion,
Three stars.
yeah, the three stars, the belt of Orion, that it's one of the key places. So where is this going? We think it's going into a reconnection. And of course, Eric Pearl was a friend of ours. He read our book, which inspired him in his work, that all of us, not by just healing, but by consciousness, are starting to have that reconnection to greater levels. In fact, young people, which we're really excited about, usually they get the experience, and then they start looking through books and hopefully finding the Keys of Enoch that help them to explain their experiences. So I think it's just an exciting time, because we call it a space-time overlap that we're in, where these higher realities, these higher thought forms are literally coming into our reality. So even, and we say this even for the Christ, many people think, well, I don't want to call upon Archangel Michael because, he's very busy. And even if he's just looking at this world, not the billions of worlds that are out there with intelligences, he's very busy. But that's not how it works. There's this consciousness linkage. It's like an extraterrestrial spacecraft.
And there's more to the story of Egypt. People do not know that Cairo, Egypt, was originally called Mars, Al-Kahira in Arabic, the spacious one. And now the government is coming out with evidence that there are pyramids on Mars that were once orientated or connected in some unique way with the astronomy of ancient Egypt. So all of this is coming out in 2023. The linkage with sacred geometries, sacred pyramidal forms throughout the world, a whole world map is going to emerge, and there will be a higher spirituality and a new science that will bring people together. Even skeptics will begin to realize what the French and the Japanese and other nations are doing now, while rediscovering through the use of muon wave detection, the other chambers inside the Great Pyramid, as well as the underground labyrinthian system of a city under Giza. Think about it, a whole city, a whole manifestation of a library of teaching mathematically through sacred geometry and sound that is the key to ascension work.
Well, as you know, we were the founders of the tomb of Osiris, and that goes down 100 feet. And there's many other tombs around there that also go down. They have not made the connection yet, but there's a lot of evidence that there is more and more underground Giza than there is above the ground.
I was going to say, Neil, I think, wants to jump in, and you really sparked his interest there.
I just love how this organically just goes from the Christ consciousness to Egypt and how we're going to be there together. And you just said 2023 is an important year, JJ. And so I feel, talking more about what we're going to experience together, like right now, you just provided so much awareness. I can just imagine us being at these places and you saying this and going even deeper into this information. And it's an initiation. So many people are actually, the amount of people going to Egypt now out of my colleagues that than ever before is unprecedented. So much energy is being directed there. And I've been saying that Egypt is calling its people home, so can you talk on that a little more? What is actually going on and why are we being pulled to this sacred land? What are we bringing forth from it?
I know, we were there in like 2016 when the regime had just changed back to the present president. And there was hardly anyone there. I mean, you could go up to the Giza Plateau, there were like 15, 20 people. And we were just there about, 2 weeks ago, practically. And you had to literally wait in lines. But, what we're going to have, right, which is we'll have permission to go into certain times and places. And that's the key, because when there's fewer people, that's when the energy really, you feel it, you feel the energy. But we feel many people are going back and doing meditations. You can feel the guards going, oh no, another person meditating here,
But this journey they're taking up the Nile is important, because we're going to stop at the key places, which according to the Keys of Enoch relate to the 7 chakras or energy points of the human body. So we're discovering the temple of man in stone. we're discovering the temple of spirit that vibrates through the stone, a whole new reality of consciousness. And we're finding a whole new realm of ancient documents that show the presence of how the Eastern traditions, the African traditions, and the Near Eastern all converge. Egypt is the library. In fact, to requote one of the ancient Coptic texts, Egypt was once the schoolhouse of the gods. And this is why all the great thinkers from Greece, from Rome, from Turkey or Anatolia came to Egypt to study. Why would they say Egypt is the place of the gods? Because there are monuments that are connected with the stars in Orion, specifically 1,400 light years. There are structures that connect with the pyramids on Mars that we're now beginning to understand is part of the missing piece of planetary science. And of course, all cultures of the world use the pyramid as a model of evolution and vibration. So it's a process of discovery of a whole new universe, a whole new aspect of the human psyche that's being exposed and will be, shall we say, probed in great depth with you, Neil. We want to thank you again for this great expedition, as we see once again behind us through one of our great artists, Devorah Curtis. This is the concept of evolution and ascension, the pyramidal geometry, signifying the divine mind, signifying the human experience, and signifying the other levels of cosmic intelligence as family. We finally find ourselves in the midst of many nations, of many peoples and traditions that now achieve the capstone or the higher teaching.
Well, Joan is coming with us along as the representative of the divine feminine there. Joan, do you have anything you want to ask JJ and Desiree? Because it'll be your first time in Egypt.
So what should we prepare? How should we prepare for entering these sacred temples?
We want to give each one who comes with us a list of some of the mantras and some of the musical expressions that we have found are very valuable, not only for the Middle East, but from other places of the world where we have worked, showing that in ancient times, namely going back 7,000 to 10,000 years ago, major cultures of the world share the same geometry and the same music. And that's why the pyramid is ubiquitous all over the planet. They recognized that there had to be a seed syllable of awakening the inner mind, the inner psyche. And so we are going to prepare people with musical cues, with sacred geometry charts, and also with the use of schematics of how the body of humanity is configured in unique ways along the Nile. Each of these 7 temples relate to the 7 seals or chakras being opened. And if this happens on the planetary level, then we know that there's going to be cosmic dramas and events that the governments are going to have to come forth and present because it's there in stone.
So in a certain sense, hopefully all of us will be part of that grid activation. And it's ongoing. We're not going to be the only group doing this grid activation, but I do think it's a key part. And Dr. Hurtak does, in the Keys of Enoch, talk about the 7 chakras along the Nile. We also have a audio CD on it called Journey Along the Nile. So you're literally going through the process of evolution that was designed by the ancient Egyptians and being initiated, I think, as Neil said, into this cosmic reality. And you feel that energy, really. It stays with you. It's part of that sacred vibration. And that's what we hope all of us can be prepared for and awakened when we're there.
Those temples are built as eternal sanctuaries to the spirit. They belong to all time, all people, and they still hold the frequencies. As you go through those gates and into the inner chamber, you feel the activation, especially in the king's chamber, but also in the temple of Philae of Isis and Edfu and Abydos. And we're going to the Osirian, which is one of the oldest temples of healing and guidance and higher guidance. So this is a really exciting activation.
See how the Egyptian guys are dancing on top of the Great Pyramid? This picture is so rare. Never before were Egyptian guides so enthusiastic about the sound vibrations coming from within the pyramid that we generated that they began to dance atop the pyramid. It shows the remarkable side of what we call musical synergy that is there The pyramid is a cipher for science, for spirituality, for psychology, for sociology, but for also human awakening.
And I want to say some of the materials that it's built with, limestone and also granite, it works with a piezoelectric effect. So there's really a reason for some of this energy activation.
I see Doe wants to hop in. Let's give her a second.
You could tell. Well, first of all this talk has me present to what I put on my vision board the beginning of the year, places I will go, despite at the end of the year, I may not physically go to the pyramids. Just resonating with this conversation so much, especially the part of 0 Point Leadership Academy. And, just like I mentioned at the beginning, with the manual for energy systems I have right here, and also connecting with the fact that young leaders will be able to activate this energy grid system that connects all these sacred sites. And I'm here.
We feel so happy to meet you because your work is right on target.
And it's
Thank
all
you.
over the world. I know that Neil and has spent a lot of time in Mexico as well. That's part of the energy grid as well. And so
Yeah, I'm in Pueblo, Colorado.
okay,
Actually,
that's
so-
another place. You said that the Keys of Enoch mentioned Pueblo as the main.
Yeah, and so I'm
Fair
just
point.
grateful for your leadership. My mom, who's watching, is the one that shared your work with me. So I remember briefly I met you at the Contact in the Desert in Joshua Tree at one point. Very briefly, I was volunteering with Dr. Greer, and just grateful for your leadership and everyone here. Thank you all so much. And I'm so floored by everything you've shared. I'm going to take some time to process it and integrate it. Because I actually envision a world in the novel Cosmic where one of the lead characters, inspired by my son, actually turns on that global unity grid through exactly what you're saying, through a combination of technology guided by love and intention, vibration, song.
Well,
Thank you
might
so
be-
much. You're right on target.
I was going to say, you might be going with us to Egypt. You never know. Joe. So yeah, Neil, did you want to put up the itinerary?
I do. I wanted, before we put up the itinerary and we go deeper into what we're going to experience in Egypt, I want to just tie it all together, Christ consciousness and Egypt, and just pose this question. So Alan, you shared with me just a few days ago about the Nile is the spinal column, right? And then we're going off the chakra system. So can you speak on that? Like, how does, maybe I'm just going to throw concepts out and maybe you can tie it together. We've heard that the story of Jesus, mirrors the story of Osiris. We have the Nile, which connects to the spinal column. We have the chakra system. So beyond Jesus actually going to Egypt, what does Egypt represent as even before the story of Jesus in regards to our Christ consciousness?
That's a good question. I will answer just quickly is that Egypt was the home of the incarnation of conscious humans, the temple of man, where we became a civilization as a human race. It is centered as Egypt, the motherland of civilizations as it branched out of higher knowledge. There were civilizations, but the ones that recognized the divine spirit, I think, began in Egypt. And of course, the Israelites emerged from Egypt, and many, many great traditions emerged from there. That's my feeling. Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it really is a sacred area, and even the Great Pyramid itself is put in a particular location for that connection between the earth and the sun and between all the land masses. And really, I think, like you find in the Mayan system, as a young man showed from Canada, that every pyramid actually aligns to a star system. And that's also similar to the Nile, that it opens us up into the higher chakra levels going along the Nile so that we are activated. So each place we'll go has a different level of activation. So you're activating all 7 levels. And we would even say ultimately the 8th level, the 8th chakra, which takes us into our higher bodies.
And we're going to be doing activations in the temples if it's allowed, because when we bring through the energies that JJ and Desiree are accessing, and in these temple sites, along with the lovely incantations of Joan and Neil, and me, I'll add some, that we will use this collective vibration and open up these new potentials that lie in each one of us. It's very exciting times.
I'm excited about something else too. I really should confess. I'm excited about being on the cruise with you guys for 4 nights and being out under the stars. And I feel like it'll make it so easy for us to just sort of transition into that powerful energy.
I agree.
Well, traveling
Yeah.
up the Nile is a very rich and rare opportunity. It's sometimes called the journey of the soul, where we go through the different stages of history, but suddenly we realize at the end stage, we are preparing ourselves really to be cosmic catalysts, to take this experience of Egypt and a bit of the Sudan, which is the next border area of the greater Nile system, to the rest of the planet, to awaken the planet to the mysteries of what we're about to see. And again, those of you who have followed our work over the years recognize that we've been behind the scenes, working with the top scientists in Egypt, as well as in different parts of the world of pyramid cultures, to show there's a common basis of music, mathematics, psychology, and spirituality. All of this now has to come together. Why? Because we're facing a culture of war by old political leadership, and that needs to change. We need to shift very quickly.
And we believe the pyramid is really an energy grid structure that takes our consciousness and connects with a higher consciousness coming down to this planet. And so we're able to clear the energy around the planet. We're able to reconnect ourselves by bringing in the higher vibrations from the stars and from the cosmos and from the Christ consciousness.
So to put it into poetic symbolism, just as Egypt represented the beginning of the Exodus out of Egypt to the Holy Land or higher realm of creation, we believe that Egypt represents our own evolutionary exodus off Mother Earth towards finding our planetary neighbors.
Along with the Sphinx as the vehicle. Ellen, you're muted. So thanks so much for having us on.
The great quest is before us, and we invite all of you to join with us and understand this will be a tremendous turning point in bringing together new findings, new evidence that we have shared with others, as well as to experience the musical, symphonic energies within our hearts, allowing us to see and visualize the other realms of cosmic awareness.
We are graced with your presence on this trip.
Yes.
You know,
And we'll be going September 6th to the 16th. There's a link inside this chat here.
I'll paste it again.
Going to be epic. We haven't really announced this publicly yet because the website will be up next week, but this is an event listing right now. So we expect it to be sold out. I think so, with all the people that always wanted to go with you, JJ and Desiree.
But we want to thank you and Michelle, Doe, and also Joan for joining us in this exciting, shall we say, chapter of new life, recognizing that we are indeed the missing capstone of knowledge. And that's why the capstone is missing. It's the geometry of how collective consciousness converges and then opens the pyramid from the top down. And as you've seen in some of our exciting documentaries, this is just the beginning of a breakthrough in history. After thousands of years, the sleeping teaching of the monuments of ancient history are beginning to speak and vibrate.
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to say something? Because you've been kind of quiet.
I am taking all of this in and knowing that I want to go back and watch it again to really, really anchor it and integrate everything that's been shared. But I really want to thank you so much for your tireless commitment to the work that you've done to help educate humanity about who we really are and why we're really here, and how you're bringing us all together with this information and it's a symphony of knowledge. And you put so many of the pieces of the puzzle together. My head is spinning. I actually got dizzy during the meditation. I was taking in so much energy that I was feeling super dizzy. And that's such a great thing. I feel very, 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 very different than when I came into this call today, just my whole world feels like it's shifted, because there have been so many golden nuggets of information shared here that are vital for our evolution. And I can't thank you enough. All of you, each one of you, thank you so much. And Alan, I know you've been gently pulling me and saying, Michelle, come with us, come with us. I appreciate
We
it.
haven't been pulling you, but your
It's you, Michelle.
presence,
What's that, Joan? Yes, if it
we
feels
haven't
good.
been pulling you, but I also want to mention that we actually had JJ and Desiree at another event, which is actually in the United States. So it's a little bit easier for some of you to get to. It's in California, San Diego in April. They're also going to be highlighted as our speakers. We are so excited to have you.
Yeah, it's gonna be great
And
to
I
be
want
there.
everyone to know, you don't have to go to Egypt. You can always do it on live stream if you can't be with us in person, but come to California then and be a part of our Ascension Conference.
Yes, another
Thank you.
epic conference, Portal to Ascension. Yes.
We're looking forward to it. Alan, I know you'll be there as well.
Right, and there's so much else happening this year as well for Portal to Ascension, but that's another show. But Neil, did you want to close out with a poem?
It's another day.
Yes, yes. So I think we thoroughly covered Egypt. Do you want to show the itinerary and just tell people what we're going to experience, or should we do that another
Show
time?
it. Yeah, you want me to show it on my?
I got it right here. I got it right here.
Oh, okay, great.
Take it away though.
I don't think JJ and Desiree's actually even seen this yet, but maybe can you make it a little bigger?
Oh, we don't have the art there. The art made it.
Why don't I put the art in there, or we'll just put the document with the art in there?
Yeah, I got that right here. Boom.
Okay,
There.
good. Okay, that's the
All
Mena
right.
house where we'll be staying for the first 3 nights. It's at the foot of the pyramids. You have anything?
And that's the best hotel to stay at. It's right there. You get the energy. It's amazing. And then the next thing is important, because this is, I believe, the new museum that just opened. It's supposedly twice the size of the Louvre. It's not even open right now. They just let some VIPs.
It'll be the most
come in.
magnificent museum in the world. All of the artifacts, even the boat next to the Great Pyramid, has been moved into the museum. It's so important to see now the collections that have, so we say, been out of touch for many years.
Actually, it's not even open, and Dr. Hurtak's really wanting to go in.
But
and see.
before we go into the museum, and that morning after the first day we land, we're going to do a special meditation inside the paws of the Sphinx, which is only open to our group. So JJ, Desiree, we're looking for a fantastic awakening as we meet the Sphinx and the
Yep,
sacred.
that's great. And it's usually at sunrise, and the lights, I can show you, send some pictures to you guys. It's a beautiful awakening for the morning. And you can do mantras because you're outside. It's fabulous.
Yes, it's going to be great. And then we go to the new museum, the Egyptian museum, which has all this is a picture of Akhenaten, who was one of the, I would say, heretic kings. What do you have to say about Akhenaten, JJ, Desiree?
Well, of course, he was the mono god that came forth.
Before I thought he was the Egyptian equivalent of Moses, one who broke with tradition. Of course, that's highly debatable. We know that Akhenaten tried to seek a higher monotheism, which is, of course, the relevance for over half the human population. But there are other details that are now showing that there were no rivalry on high levels. And we're looking at all sides of the question.
And then the third day, we're going to a place you just went to, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. Talk about that.
Well, this is amazing. They actually have, we won't be doing it.
You can see the screen.
Well,
You can just flip back to the screen.
well, that's okay. I'll just show it with from myself. So you can go see now, and we will be doing that probably. There's a tomb inside that you go in just a little ways, and then you look down and you find the tomb. It's amazing. Otherwise, it's literally almost a mile walking under the ground, under the Zoser pyramid, to go to this tomb. We won't be doing that 1 mile walking, but you can just go in at the top level and literally go see the tomb. It's amazing. And there's actually a few other
We need
places.
good shoes. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Wait, a few other things to go. Yeah, we're gonna
Well,
go.
there's actually another place around there that if you stand there, you can hear like a sound vibration. It's
Oh,
really,
yeah,
really,
there's the
very
sound
powerful.
platform. That's right. If you whisper inside the temple, you hear it 100 yards away on a platform. I did that. That's fantastic what they knew about sound engineering. This, of course, is the bent pyramid. Now, why is that? What do you think happened there, JJ?
I know that. Well, they give the excuse the fact that, they decided like to start it and then it wasn't going to work. So they did it the other way. And then the Pharaoh didn't want to go there. He did the red pyramid instead of the bent pyramid. But we don't think so. We think it actually provides from the top down two different sacred geometries that come together there. And it's a very, very powerful place as well.
And then on the fourth day, we fly to Luxor, which is to the south, an hour, and we're going to the Valley of the Kings, which was the sacred burial ground of the pharaohs. And there's a beautiful, tell us what really special about the Valley of the Kings there.
Well, the Valley of the Kings is close to where we found, I should say, we scholars in the West of 1945 to 47 found the Nag Hammadi texts that speak of Egypt as a place of gathering for the powers of the universe.
But for the most part, I think where he'll take us is actually to see some of the underground ancient king tombs. And these are very, very powerful. There's many there. And so you have to see on that day which ones are open. But it's a very, and inside these tombs, as you see here, are really very well preserved wall writings or hieroglyphics and illustrations, and they're very, very powerful.
So we're going to have an experience of some of the ancient hieroglyphics being understood in terms of modern science. That in itself will be a great breakthrough.
We'll also go into what the Egyptians believe about the afterlife was about, which was a very affirming, positive sort of idea. And then the queen.
And then the colossi of Memnon that vibrates. Again, in illustrating what we've been working with for many years, acoustical physics, realizing we're not simply looking at passive structures, but active structures if you have the right musical frequency.
Yeah, there's so much to see on the West Bank is what they're basically telling us here.
Half a day. Okay, after the West Bank, we go back to this beautiful hotel. Have you been there to the Jolly Villa Resort? Well, the next day, we're driving to Abydos, which is really a lot of people's favorite temple, built by Seti I, but it was a lot older. It goes back to the Ancient of Days.
Right, it may be one of the oldest temples literally in all of Egypt, and people have a lot of amazing experiences. You have water just outside of where the Osirium is, and then the Seti Temple. And the Seti Temple is the one that shows the kind of the flying disc or the flying, we'll say, the airplane on one of the lentils at the top. It's very, and it's designed so if you stand in a certain time, you actually have a light appear over your head. It comes right down like a shaft, a beam of light. Very, very powerful.
We're going to go into the Osirian, and JJ Desiree, hope you're going to bring in the energies of Osiris so we can really tap into that ancient knowledge.
And that's also the place where you see the that interesting logo of the multi-star formation, the Flower of Life.
Flower of Life is burned into the temple wall. The next day, we go to Dendura Temple Complex, where the Temple of Hathor is. You've spent time there, right, as well?
Yes, Dendera, of course, is the amazing place that you see the on the wall, the thing that looks like the light bulb, and it's also in the ceiling up above in one of the higher chambers. You see the whole astronomy.
We see it on the screen right now.
Yeah,
Erich von Däniken and Swiss scientists recreated this in the year 2000 at the first International Congress on Paraphysical Phenomena, where we were participants. But it illustrates what we found in other parts of underground Egypt, that the Egyptians were able to master the use of sacred gases to create, as it were, energy sources for underground lighting techniques.
That's part of our book, Giza's Industrial
right.
We
Complex.
illustrate this
Also
in our new
talks-
book. We actually show the scientific documents of how the Egyptians used solar batteries, how they were able to capture and use argon energy. So this is going to be a great scientific manifestation of truth never before discussed publicly.
Yeah, and we've heard that there's a few other chambers that have been opened around Dendera, so we'll see what we're able to find when we're there. And now this is one of my favorite places, the area of Luxor and Karnak.
Yeah.
With the Avenue of the Sphinxes.
And you can just walk around. It's so fabulous. It's huge.
Biggest
So think
temple
of each sphinx representing a human teacher and an avenue of teaching that's connecting a grid system of Earth with that of other planetary systems that also have pyramids. Again, this is going to be one of the great breakthroughs of government disclosure. Not only do we have friends from other worlds, other planetary solar relations, but they have their own pyramidal systems on these far-flung planetary systems.
And
Then we
some
go
of these
to
places are also open at night. So we have to see, we can just kind of
I
go
think we
there.
are going to go at night. I think
Yeah.
he said we can go at night, and it's spectacular day or night. And then Karnak, as opposed to Luxor, they're sort of connected, has these huge columns. What do you think Karnak was used for originally?
Now, well, there's also usually sacred, we'll say, area for bathing as well. You don't do that today, but that's what they had. So they were really ritual places. And from what we say, you know, there was an energy that was charged the water even, and it became healing waters.
It's called the place of the Most High. And this is an expression we find in Aramaic in the Old Testament book of Daniel. So there was a knowledge known to the ancient scholars connected with the Exodus period that they were trained to know knowledge of the higher universe, which they claimed the areas of the Most High or Most Highs. We would call them those part of a higher evolutionary architecture.
So they have the sacred lake. I don't know if you can see that on from our book.
We're looking at the Sacred Lake. Yeah, the Sacred Lake by Karnak. Is it?
Yeah, Karnak is part of
Hey.
that whole energy of really, you know, revival, regeneration, healing, and transformation.
If you scroll down, Neo, we also get to see the old statue of Sekhmet there.
Which is the lion face god, yes. And we believe that from an extraterrestrial standpoint, there's both Bast and Sekhmet, lion and cat-faced beings. And many of the gods of Egypt, actually, we believe are just mythologies of real living beings of different races and entities that are here to help. I mean, the cat god was always something that was helpful to humanity in the Egyptian cosmology.
What's so interesting about that Temple of Sekhmet is that it has been untouched in 5,000 years. The next day, then we go on the Nile cruise and we get off at Edfu, which is the sacred temple to Horus. And tell us about that special wall in Edfu, JJ Desiree.
Yeah, well, it shows like the whole way of the gods being able to work and function. But we also like the power of the keeper there, which is the vision of Horus. And we're talking about Christ as well. In a certain sense, Osiris also represents the Christ, but so does Horus, because he was the sonship principle. So you have many levels of Christ working on all those realities.
So we're talking about the larger themes of these special terms. As Oriental scholars, as Egyptologists, or as archaeologists, we're looking at the whole world situation, where it's not simply an experience of a mystery tradition of Egypt, but one that brought together tributaries of scholars from all parts of the world in ancient times, pushing back, as it were, the sands of time.
Talk about the Atlantean wall in Edfu. Can you mention something about that, JJ?
It's quite obvious that the Egyptians were a part of a world culture. According to Plato, Egypt was a colony of what is called Atlantis or Altea. And of course, 19th and 20th century scholars have tried to explain this without really going into what you call the archaeological discoveries that have shown that there was a grid plan connected here on a much higher level.
I mean, a lot of this is all ancient Atlantis, I have to say, because yeah, from our research, I mean, this could not have been done without higher technology. So all of these
Atlantis
temples,
being simply a great civilization that spanned the North and South Atlantic. And we're not speaking about this in terms of science fiction or we will call happenstance, religious window shopping. We're speaking about actual documentation that has been made by American, British, and even Chinese underwater exploratory missions that have found pyramids under the oceans. I mean, this is one of our documentaries, the Temple of Mu, showing off of Japan in 1996. We found a whole city that was sunk. So this is known knowledge or forbidden archaeology that's coming out now after many years.
So we're continuing with day 9, the Temple of Isis, of course, the mother of the gods. And you know, when Horus was born, actually Osiris had already been killed. His body was cut into 14 pieces, and she had the power to create Horus to come back in to bring forth the sonship line that we're all a part of, so to speak. So very, very powerful. And don't knock the, yes, exactly.
The Elephantine Island, of course.
This is very, very
where the Ark of the Covenant was allegedly taken to, where the mystics, the Jewish mystics, were able to break with tradition and harmonize ancient Egyptian knowledge with that of the Near East and the Orient.
So this is a very unusual stop, actually, and it's a very important stop as well.
So our guide is going to show us the cave where the Ark of the Covenant was. And then that'll be our last night on the Nile cruise, 3 days on the Nile cruise. Then we fly back to Cairo, where we prepare for a sacred final ceremony inside the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. That's the King's Chamber. But we're also going to do a meditation in the Grand Gallery to light it up.
And we're going to show you something that's most remarkable. You see now the black and white picture of the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. We're going to show you the actual inscriptions that the normal eye cannot see, but under intensified special lighting techniques, we've been able to see sacred letters that are there that have never been acknowledged until quite recent times.
And that's the place where you have one of the air shafts, or we call them star shafts, that go to Orion. And
the other goes to Alpha Draconis, that you call the star systems of the dragon intelligence. And so we see this dialectic being played out in our day and time, which would explain some reluctance of government authority to put all the chips on the table, that there are positive beings that are of the Christ-like or the higher angelic humanity, and there are those who are the tricksters that lock people in the tombs of superstition, violence, and wars.
10 intensive days. We rest. We were on the move. We see the great sights because, you know, there's so much to see there, and it's so rich in its offering and its higher knowledge that it's an intense trip, but we're looking forward to it. And
it's a sacred journey, Ellen, more than a trip.
Yeah, you should call it a sacred
This is
journey.
not for American or Japanese tourists with their little cameras. This is for people who want to experience.
Yes, that's why we have you with us, JJ.
I'll bring your cameras anyway.
Yes. So we're going to make a little special video of this. And any comment? Because I'm getting hungry. No, but
Just thank you. Me and Zelda say thank you for all of your service.
Thank you for your great work and your beautiful child. And all of you for your great work that brought us together.
Yeah, and thank you, Neil, for hosting this great event today.
Great to see you both to our future collaborations. Joan, it's going to be great, isn't it? Rest up.
I'm getting ready for Egypt, guys.
Yeah, you've got to. Everyone has to be a little prepared. Although the Nile and that, it's mostly walking around. It's not ups and downs so much. When you get to Giza, a lot of it is up and down. So you have to be prepared.
We're going to have to do some kind of preparation program for everyone who's going.
A Zoom call beforehand. You know, we're fully immersed in this, as you know, JJ and Desiree right now, because we're creating this event. Like by Monday, the website will be up. The website is EgyptAscensionRetreat.com. All right, it's the Eventbrite. You can take a look at the itinerary right now, but the full site with all this content, you know, a lot of information is going to be up on Monday. And just you sharing this, I didn't think I could get more excited, guys.
Well, also, let's not forget that this is a journey of initiation that will activate the Christ consciousness, Neil. That brings it back around.
Right.
That's why we're going to Egypt. Because
this isn't just a tour. This is
even
for myself and you guys.
Jesus said the stones will sing or speak. And so again, this picture of the Egyptian guides dancing on top of the Great Pyramid speaks volumes. It's the whole area of sacred vibration resonance that's been overlooked by archaeologists. The use of sacred mantras and sacred music, again, overlooked by traditional historians. The area of higher psychology and spiritual unity, overlooked by traditions that seek only the male or only the female. We bring them together as we are shown in the remarkable mathematics and the ancient text.
Right.
You did a fabulous job of bringing everybody into that awareness of what this trip will be, because it's not a vacation, it's not a trip, it's a soul family reunion. And what I'm feeling is, you know, reminiscent of back in 2012, I was guided to lead people to Peru during that, you know, these heightened times, right? 11, 11, 11, we had a group, and 12, 12, 12 through 12, 21, 12. And many people came onto this journey that I didn't know personally, but what I felt was they were called. It's a heart call that goes out, and it's as if it's a requirement for our soul's evolutionary journey, and not just doing it for us individually, but for the whole of humanity. You really gave a great explanation of how you're bringing the pieces of the puzzle together to co-create the world that we want to see, the world we want to live in. And I thank you so much for your grounded representation of what that looks like and what it actually feels like. I really felt what this trip is going to be.
Yeah, because Egypt is a grid point, and it affects the whole planet for everything that's going on there. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of people want to go and have been drawn there. So thank you for sharing that.
And we are the tribe, Portal to Ascension, the best tribe I can think of to travel to Egypt together. And you used a great word. It was like not cosmic consciousness, but I think this is amazing. Yes.
Opening a portal to ascension. The reason for the trip is portal to ascension.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to share with everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you, JJ Desiree. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Neil.
Appreciate you guys. All right, so thank you so much to everybody tuning in. We're gonna close out in a second, but I'm gonna do a poem before we close out. And just to talk one more thing about Egypt, it's not only an up-leveling, but as Joan has said multiple times, we are reclaiming our ancient memories. We're reclaiming, it's time for us to have full remembrance of not only who we are on this planet, but of our antiquity, the beauty of human history, the ages that we've been on this planet, more than what we've been told conventionally, right? There's so much that we're unlocking and unveiling right now, and bringing it all together with the Christ consciousness is that this is not just this time of year, this is forever. This is the energy of the planet, and we are reclaiming it for all of humanity so we can walk forward together in unity and create true harmony, true peace on planet Earth. So I just want to thank everybody for being a part of today's event, tuning into this energy here. And I'm going to do two poems. I'm going to close out. And I think these poems are pretty good for today's topic. The first one I actually wrote in 2002 when I was 19 years old. It's called Political Spirituality. And it kind of talks on the whole concept of Constantine, the influence of Christianity in the early Roman Empire, and then the eventual spreading of Christianity and the corruption that also happened within it. That's the first verse. And the second one kind of takes that into a more cosmic level, because even though we have this drama playing out on planet Earth, what is the cosmic understanding of us even going into duality, going into the darkness? Were we not supposed to have this darkness, or was this darkness deliberately put here for us to have remembrance of who we are? Is this darkness really working for the light, right? So this is called political spirituality because of the connection of the politics of religion, right? Especially in the early ages of Christianity, and how it connects to a more advanced spiritual understanding. And then the other one is called Empower Yourself. So I'm just going to go from one right into the other, and then we'll close out for today. So again, thank you, everybody. The sun stops on the 22nd. It dies in the skies, reflects over oceans. He walks on water. Did you not see him telling me how to be like he lived? He died for us, but there's no such thing as us. There's only one covenant. Control me, show me, teach me. Since 325 AD, Constantine proclaimed himself a part of divinity, manipulations of Christianity, political organizations creating order from anarchy. Make us believe that there's only one way to breathe and conform to society. Place me at the bottom of the elitist hierarchy. The pyramids created by the Anunnaki, climbing the Tower of Babel to reach God. Why did you leave us here? We're not separate at all. It's all crystal clear. Human flaws portrayed in our concept of divinity. Is politics intertwined with spirituality? Is politics intertwined with spirituality? Galaxies so far away, we intertwine planetary cosmic stargate to seek. Reach walls of society, spread word to the masses, eschew gases, volcanic ashes, cosmic element irrelevant to the reason why we will control your mind. We're words of divine originality. Originally, we were deceived, but believed to be one of the free rebels of humanity. It's a fallacy of superficial promises of rules and laws. Find the meaning of a truer cause, scriptures and prophecies of the second coming of God, sacred sounds and sacred geometry of fourth dimensional Lord. The new age will not be as hard. Thousands of years in revelations with us realizing we are God. The negative energy will be gone. The rise in the feminine energies due to us becoming brothers, one with a terrestrial mother. No more Jehovah, a witness knocking on my door. No me having to get on my knees worshiping from the floor. No more someone capitalizing over you because he wants to score. No more pettiness and no more war. No more violence, media, manipulations, and gore. So until that day arrives, I will meditate and concentrate my thought and my mind on the manifestation of one love, consciousness, and rhyme. So until that day arrives, we will meditate and concentrate our thoughts and our minds on the manifestation of one love, consciousness and rhymes. Consciousness and rhymes. The moment draws near. For years, we've been purging all fears, letting go of the old energies, making room for the new frequencies. I know we all feel these on some level. Higher multidimensional entities embracing our galactic families, emissaries of unconditional love. The one vibration that fits all creation like a glove. I know sometimes this incarnation, it can seem tough. With Masons illuminating manipulations, facing, tasting, wasting our lives away. We must remember the lessons that we're here to play. We chose to be here today. Nothing external to you, to your God self you pray. There's only one speck of light, experiencing itself in multiple forms within our sight, taking us to new heights. So go against the norm, no longer conform. When one transitions, there's no reason to mourn. Don't scorn, take out the thorn. The crystalline children are now being born. There is no devil waiting for you with horns. There is only love. The vibration showering us, descending straight from densities above. We must stand up and say enough and take our power back with peace and understanding. There's no reason to attack and energize the fear, as they are reflections of us. Time to trust our brothers and sisters. This is all a self-imposed test. So you got the job, put your concerns to rest. Through the darkness, the light will firmly nest into the dimension that is next. The moment is now to resurrect the Christ consciousness. The moment is now to resurrect the Christ consciousness. The moment is now. Love you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Wow.
Aho, aho.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Whew.
Thank you. Thank you, JJ Desiree. Appreciate you guys.
We'll see you in Egypt. No, we're going to see you before, but we'll see you there.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
love you
San
all. Thank you
Diego
all.
first.
Say that again, Michelle.
San Diego first.
Yep, exactly. And we'll do, Alan, we're gonna do a live show, everybody, in the beginning of January to talk about what Alan, myself, and Joan are actually creating for the whole year. We have Crystal Skulls Conference in Sedona. We're bringing the skulls back together. We're going to Egypt. We're doing San Diego Conference. We're in Glastonbury for conference. So 2023 is, I already thought we're going exponential, but we're going even more exponential than we ever been before. The curve is like pretty much vertical at this point. We're just like going off planet to other realities.
Portal Ascension goes global, goes
Yeah,
cosmic.
it's exciting.
Yes.
And
I heard that for a long-
what I absolutely love about what is happening here is watching and witnessing you bring conscious collaboration without competition into the embodied experience and
Mhm.
showing people how easy it is to collaborate without any competition and to heal the divide. I so appreciate that you're modeling that.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you,
we're only
Michelle.
gonna do this together.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Joan.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Mwah. Love you all
Good luck to you,
so
Bucky.
much.
Okay.
Take
Thanks,
care,
Nick.
everybody. See you next time.
Peace.